and welcome back to When IT Hits the Fan, sponsored by Rhyno Healthcare Solutions. Thank you, Rhyno. Today we have Kelly Winters. On our podcast, we explore every aspect of healthcare IT from a payer to provider, from product to patient. So, Kelly, can you start us off with telling us what you do and what your general day looks like?
Sure, Kristen, and thank you for having me on today. I am a vice president of operations for a managed care organization, and I have 15 years of operational experience. I began my career in a small commercial company and was able to move up to a top nationally recognized self insured hospital. Then I moved to a national managed care company and several other managed care companies afterwards. My experience has been to focus on the efficiencies and administrative cost of operations from the beginning to end of a member and a provider experience. And I currently have four departments in operations with 190 team members and two vendors. All of these departments that I manage focus on issue resolution for the member and the provider for all aspects of operations of the plan.
Absolutely. Can we go a little bit into the four teams that are in your purview?
Sure. My largest team is the grievance and appeals team, and that encompasses all grievance, appeals, claim disputes, CTMs, and also anything else that has to do with the member and the provider if they are disputing a claim or a member issue. The second team I have is an operational regulatory oversight team. And that team really helps the operational areas combine all of the regulatory, and compliance issues that come through, and also ensures that we answer timely and efficiently to our regulators. The third team that I have is called the Market Liaison Support Services team. And that team also works with the operational teams in order to handle and root cause issues that come internally and externally from our providers. Um, and we really work with the operations team to ensure that the root cause is is given, and then we ensure that the issues do not happen again. And the fourth team I have is the Operational Excellent Oversight team. And that team has the audit team that audits on a monthly, quarterly, or yearly basis for our operational areas. And that includes enrollment, it includes G&A, credentialing, claims, and also our health partner data load team, our provider load team.
Absolutely. Sounds like a busy day.
Yes, it is.
And so, um, this podcast is When IT Hits the Fan. We talk about how technology moves us forward in being able to provide better healthcare overall for our members, for our patients. And so, can you tell me a little bit about how technology and IT plays into your different teams? Yeah, let's start there.
Yeah, sure. Well, as you can imagine, all of my teams have to use multiple software systems on a daily basis in order to do their work. And we are consistently challenged to decrease admin costs and to ensure that our processes are as efficient as possible. So we really rely on our IT partners in order to ensure that our software systems are up and running. There's no lag
Yeah.
times when we are using them. And then also to help us really ensure that we can make the process efficient as possible. And what we've done in the past couple years is really increased our incorporation of artificial intelligence and bots into our processes in order to really make sure that the efficiencies come to play.
Yes, absolutely. I haven't had an episode of the podcast yet where AI hasn't been brought up. And this brings us into our like central portion, which is how are you using specific technologies to make things better in your little corner of the world? Let's have the discussion about AI.
Right. Okay. Yeah, we really have focused on three main things in the last couple of years. One is to, as you can understand, when we're looking amongst clinical information, or have a lot of information that's coming to us to summarize and to review and to analyze, we have definitely been using. AI and bots in order to help us summarize that information. It has helped us in identify certain cases to go to certain sorry about that, management experts, and also enhance our closure times by automation, whether it is incorporating letter automation or either case closures, when we are doing our grievance and appeals.
Mhm. What would you say to people who believe that truly only human on human contact can handle every single portion of a patient grievance system?
Well, I would say that that is not true. I think that the technology makes it easier again to gather all the information for us to summarize it and to look at the highlights that need to be highlights to make the decisions that we need to be made. We still have a tremendous amount of critical thinking that needs to take place in making sure that we make the correct decision for our members and providers. But this technology helps us really point out the highlights. And instead of it taking us 20 to 30 minutes to review a case, it can decrease, to 10 to 15 minutes to review a case and to close it.
What I've heard in this conversation, and I tend to agree with this, is that it's artificial intelligence, not artificial wisdom. And we, as the people involved, one, we need to be its handler to just ensure
Yes.
privacy, because it is something that lives and eats on data. Um, and I'm wondering, what steps have you guys taken in protecting user data in these systems? Is your AI completely in house, or what have you done to protect and HIPAA best practices in regards to a system that consumes data in order to live?
Yeah, we are very lucky. We have a very strong IT security team, and all of our artificial intelligence that we use currently and our bots that we use currently are all in house. So, and our data is in house. So it is very secure.
Absolutely. Besides for the AI, which is helping shorten times and save cost, is there any other major updates that have recently come from the technical side into your business side of things?
Yeah, well, we're always working with our vendor partners that own the software that we utilize. And, one of the things that I think is very important for those vendors is to really have the conversation with the people who do the work, right? And that is one of the things that I really try to help our vendors understand. It is great that you have, made this wonderful software, but on the day-to-day use
Mhm.
of it, please make sure that you are, listening to our teams that are using it on a day-to-day basis, because that is how the system works the best for the team, or either show us how to utilize and the software better on our processes.
Normally, So we hear a lot of the voices from the IT hands on keyboard side on this show. This is a very like special opportunity where I can kind of peel back because I don't think it's a secret to say that sometimes, just sometimes, the keyboard aspect of IT and then the business aspect of IT don't always get along like a horse and carriage. um,
Yeah.
and I'd love to hear from your side. One, where do you think those disconnects occur? And secondly, second question, how do you think we can start bridging the gap and translating between these two, the right and left hand of the business?
You're definitely correct there. An operational team member doesn't have the IT knowledge that an IT team member does, and vice
Yeah,
versa. So it's all about communication and being real to each other and ensuring that you understand each other and not just nod the head and say yes, yes, yes. No, you know, I always, when I'm talking to my IT team members, really make sure that they understand what my problem is at that point in time or what I am trying to achieve. Because if we don't do that, they don't do the work. So they don't understand that. And then the same thing, it has to be reciprocated that the IT team member really needs to say, okay, in layman's terms, I am going to make the system do this, right? Or the process is going to have this process, between these systems and these vendors and that sort of thing. Do you understand? And then the two also, what is really important, especially in my areas, is how you monitor all of the connections and how you monitor that everything is working as appropriate as it should be. Because if something does break, you have to be able to quickly identify it and be able to solve that, so that the turnaround times are not effective
yeah,
affected.
absolutely. I've I'm on the hands-on keyboard side, and so what I'll admit is that we're very good at solving puzzles. Um, I think we focus a little bit too much on how and not quite enough on why sometimes. And I think the operations side, that's your job is the why. And correct me if I'm wrong, but is that how you feel? That you have this lay of the land, you have the ability to see, and you have such a smaller distance between you and the member, that you guys bring why we're doing all of these little puzzles and building our little robots and enjoying it down in the workshop. Um, how do you feel about that topic of how do you think it is best to bring the needs of a member to your favorite code monkeys down in the lab?
Yeah, you're right. And even in operations, we don't have the touch that, say, a care manager
Yes.
does with a member. So I always love when we go to team meetings or town halls, and it shows how we are actually touching that member and making a difference in their lives. And I always try to tell my team, please remember that, because we only see the problems. We don't see the good things that are happening on a hourly basis. So to answer your questions, yes, you have to explain that to an IT person because they are so far removed from that. They don't understand. They may not understand.
No,
Excuse
but
me.
I'm with
They
you.
may not
Oh,
understand.
I'm with
Yeah,
you.
they may not understand how this could impact their care, their quality of care, the timing of their care, if we don't explain that to them.
Because we work on this system of no news is good news. And so, how do you think it's best to, on both sides, on both hands, both the IT and the operational, anybody who isn't directly in a room with a member or on a line with a member, how do you think it's best to show them the victories?
We have great success stories with our dashboards that we show how fast and how accurate we process claims, we process appeals and disputes. And, we share that information on a monthly basis with our IT leadership team to really try to help them understand that this is important to do this,
I
and
agree.
how important to do this, because the state and the government may give you 30 days to solve or respond to a standard appeal or dispute. But most managed care companies, they would like to do it in less time, because again, you have a member or provider waiting on something, a resolution or even payment or care at that point in time.
Absolutely. Um, so that's the victories. What do you think are the, well, let's start with the present and then I'll go into what do you see for the future. But right now, what are your most major pain points? What, if you had a magic wand, what would you be doing differently?
What I would be doing differently is, I guess, having that conversation more on
Yeah.
strategy of an enterprise, and ensuring that we have a plan of how we're going to really drive as an enterprise the efficiencies, and all agree upon that. That's really hard when you have so many
Of
players,
course.
and you have limited IT resources, limited budgets. And it is a hard strategy, especially if you're trying to grow in your business.
What does that image of efficiency look like to you? Obviously, it varies from person to person to person. But just from your vantage point, what do you consider wise?
Well, the efficiency starts from the beginning,
Most certainly.
right? Yeah. So you have to look at it a very holistic way, from the beginning to when the member is enrolled to the end. If we do receive a grievance or an appeal or a claim dispute. So, I always say that my teams are everything rolls down the hill to them. So we really have to partner with everyone up the hill, I guess you could
Yeah.
say, and really show them what we're seeing at the end of the stage. Because if they do a lot of the stuff correct in the beginning, then it's not. It doesn't even come to us. And I know that's not going to be the perfect world. You're always going to have grievances, appeals, and disputes. But our goal is to really decrease them in the future. And in order to do that, you have to continue to make sure that the quality and the efficiencies are up front in the process.
Let's take a snapshot shot back before we go forward. Um, Obviously, some big things have happened in one, how all of us work. Um, in the last, let's say, 5 years, really, it's been four. Um, COVID, the elephant in the room. Um, how did that affect your company, your team, the way you guys did things? How did you restand things up? And do you think things are going back to how they were before? Will they ever go back to the way that they were before? Are things better? What do you think?
Well, our company was very fortunate. I was actually on site at that point in time, with our company, the day everything was shutting
Yeah.
down, and within hours, I mean literally hours, we had people in IT support to get the equipment out to our team members. I can remember loading, helping load cars with computers and monitors. And by the next day, everyone was up and running just like it had never happened. So we were very, very fortunate. And, our our company again has really taken the work life balance into consideration, and we do have a hybrid model in working with our company. So I definitely think it's here to stay. You still have to ensure that everyone is working as efficient as possible, and meeting their goals in order for the enterprise to meet their goals. But as long as that's being done and you're monitoring the quality and the production, we're doing fine.
Absolutely. And so that's the past. These are my two favorite questions of the entire interview every single time. What are you optimistic for, and what are you pessimistic for when it comes to what's coming down the pike?
Yeah. I'm definitely optimistic on the technology and understanding it a little bit more, and working on how we're going to incorporate it without losing that touch for the member and the provider and the critical thinking. So that's going to have to continue to be worked on, and data is going to have to really be analyzed in order to ensure that nothing's being lost when we implement these types of technology. Um, and I guess as far as pessimistic is concerned, it is always it is losing that touch, losing that critical thinking. So there's a balance that we're going to have to continue to work on, and really make sure that we look at that this is going to help us and help the member and the provider, not make it not hinder us. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So.
If you had something that you could tell us new freshies, the fresh blood who happen to come in right at COVID and not really get to even meet their coworkers in person all the time, if you could give us some advice, we'd sure appreciate it. What would you say?
Keep learning. Again, I've been in managed care for 15 years, and I can honestly say there has is not a week that I don't learn something new. And, the more that you can learn about the areas that are your clients. So if you're in IT and you work with operations or you work with care management, the better off you'll be. The better off you'll be able to communicate, the more successful your projects will end up, because you'll know what questions to ask. And you'll know how they communicate and how they think, because it's two different worlds for sure.
Absolutely. And then final question. This is the one that sometimes gets people a little teary, but I never mean it that way. But if you could travel back in time and tell yourself something at the beginning of your career, and it doesn't even have to exactly relate directly to healthcare IT, just to life in jobhood, what might you tell yourself?
Oh, that is interesting. I definitely don't have any regrets of anything that I've done. So I would just encourage myself to probably have continued my education a little bit more into the IT area. I do have a master's in health care administration, but I have always been trying to learn more about the IT area and how to speak that language, and how to really know what, I guess you could say, someone is doing for me a little bit
Yeah.
more. So I think that's where I would have increased or change my path, is to really focus on that
Let's
area.
talk about that masters for just a second, because this is a topic that's coming up in a lot of the other interviews, is how for IT the barrier of entry is changing. It's not getting lower, it's not getting higher per se, but now we're getting far more applicants in the pool that used to be an accountant 6 months ago. Um, and just pivoted. And now, 3 certificates later, they're fully in IT, for better or for worse, truly. Do you think that in education for healthcare administration specifically, um, do you think it should be more mandatory to have not programming or anything specifically of holding the fire extinguisher and pointing it at a computer, um, but just more of an understanding of the IT side in general? Should that be? I feel like it's necessary and it's a missing piece, because I also feel like our side could definitely learn more about your side in our education as well. I feel like it should almost be mandatory. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that's the case. I would. It's been quite some time since I even received my master's, so I would hope that the master's administration programs or public health administration has incorporated more IT programs or classes into their
Not
program,
necessarily,
right?
but we can pray.
Okay. Yeah. So, you know, if they haven't, I would definitely agree with you. But again, I think that is something that, we can do as ourself. To just enhance
I
our
agree, yeah.
knowledge and to enhance our degrees is to do that. Again, I've been very very fortunate to have some coworkers that really have took me under their wing, and they've taught me what they can. But as you know too, if you're not doing that stuff every single day, you kind of lose it because you have to focus on something else. So I definitely agree with you. There's definitely an opportunity there to enhance the curriculum, to give the IT knowledge, but it's so ever
That is
changing. It's
also true.
almost like it, yeah, it's almost like a continuing education thing that maybe should be part of the enterprise or part of the
I just wrote
companies.
down the
Um,
question. What do you think is the role of the company in the advancing of education of their employees? Please.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that would be a wonderful thing. It's it's really hard, personally, to carve out that time though when you are in a career,
Certainly, certainly.
to carve out that time, especially when you have large groups and very stringent turnaround times and that sort of thing. So it's very hard to do that. But companies having that direction and really pushing their employees to that, I think is would be
And
great.
I think
Yes.
that while it would take, obviously, effort, budget, time, things that are in short supply, I feel like it would actually save all three of those in the end.
Yeah, I would say so. Again, I know our company and many, many companies, they do pay for education such as that. The classes that qualify and that
Certainly.
sort of thing. But it is definitely taking the time out of the personal time to really encourage the team members and myself to do a little bit more. So it is that continuing education thing that we all have to say that we're going to do and be responsible
And
for.
one last question, it's a little cheeky. Um, for us, you teaching us, because we also need to understand your side, what if you were to write a little cheat sheet and just pass it over to me? What three things would you just love for all more hands on keyboard IT people to have through their heads? Our heads.
Well, I think we kind of, yeah, definitely. I think we kind of pinpointed that in some of the conversation that we had, but member and provider are first. We have to ensure that we're doing what we can to help them out as quickly as we can and with the quality that we
Most certainly.
can. So that's number one. Number two, think about the person who is utilizing the system or the process that are you're making on a day to day basis. You know, back when I first started and we had pen and paper that we were using, right, instead of keyboards, I always told my team, if a red pen was better than a blue pen for you to use because somehow you like that red pen or a blue pen, you have to tell me. So, ask those questions, try to sit in that seat and really understand how they have to work and what they have to do. Now, on our side, again, we have to be encouraged to always say, why are we doing this over and over and over? And can this be done a different way? So it's a
Of
two-way
course, of
street for
course.
sure.
But yes, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We have hit that wonderful 30-minute mark. Um, thank you. You have been Kelly Winters. I have been Christian Patillo. This has been When IT Hits the Fan, brought to you by Rhyno Healthcare Solutions. I will never say the sponsor's name wrong ever again. Thank you for listening.